So we're going to be talking today about how to buy running backs that will win you leagues in this upcoming fantasy football season. Now, they may not all be stalwarts because, you can't always afford those top end guys. They're hard to get. So we're going to give you some RB1s, some RB2s. We're not going to throw any trash out there at you. Let's kick it off, Nate. I know you were really excited to talk about running backs today.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit more excited than usual because we are talking about guys that are actually going to be making an impact, and I feel pretty good about. If I may go ahead and talk about this first guy, it won't come to a surprise to many. I've been talking this guy up a lot over the past couple weeks.
But I will say, I feel like you and I are kind of in the same boat. We're a little out on him coming out of college, but now that we've seen him blossom in the NFL, and look, it's okay for us to change our tune on players. Don't have take lock, but anyway, Nate, proceed.
I expect a lot of great things out of James Cook this year. Of course, one reason is he was a good running back last year, that's for sure. But another reason is the volume and how this offense is set up for the Buffalo Bills moving forward in 2024. We've talked about it on here before about Stephon Diggs moving on, going to the Texans. They quote unquote replace him with Keon Coleman. But Keon Coleman is not the one for one replacement here. This is going to be kind of the same thing the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill. It's going to be a wide receiver room that replaces Stephon Diggs and his production. It's going to be Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, whoever else is there. And of course, Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position. Now, none of those guys are absolute stars yet. Maybe Dalton Kincaid gets there. Maybe Keon Coleman gets there. Maybe even Khalil Shakir. We'll see. But the Bills became a very run-heavy team at the end of last year. And I expect this with the offseason moves that they have made to continue, especially even like drafting Ray Davis in day 3. He's a great complementary back to James Cook that they can run the ball, they can pound the ball, and control the clock. Over the final 3 games of the year last year, they had 36 carries per game, Mike. That was easily number 1 in the league.
That's insane. In today's NFL, that's insane.
Yeah, and there were only 6 teams the entire season that had at least 30 carries a game, one of them being the Buffalo Bills. So this has turned into a run-heavy team. This is not the pass-happy team that a lot of people wanted it to be. We saw with Josh Allen in the last couple of years with Stephon Diggs when he was airing the ball out. This is a more run-heavy team moving forward. And with that, I expect James Cook to produce well. Coming off an RB 19 in points per game, but he finishes a top 12 running back overall because he was healthy and effective. He only had 6 touchdowns last year, 6 total touchdowns on 237 rushes and 44 receptions. That's 281 touches, Mike. I expect positive regression there. We should see more touchdowns from him. And like I said, there's good players in this offense, but for James Cook, there's not much competition for touches. There's not much competition in the backfield. He's got Ray Davis joining him, but that's a rookie. And then the offense outside of the backfield, you have good players, but you don't have any great players, any star players at this point. So James Cook has the ability to move up in this offense and be one of the star players alongside Josh Allen. I'm expecting big things from him this year. Big expectations for James Cook. I think he's a guy that can win your league, and he's pretty acquirable too right now. Jerome Ford in a second-round pick, I think, is a great conversation starter to go get James Cook. A lot of people are not high on James Cook. They kind of look at him pretty similar to how they did last year. He's kind of a fringe RB1, high RB2, but I think he's going to exceed those expectations this year. Maybe also Josh Jacobs, who a lot of people are going to be looking at his volume with the Packers and how efficient they were last year. Expect big things out of Josh Jacobs. I'm expecting Josh Jacobs to start to kind of trend downwards as we kind of saw last year with his production and his efficiency. So I'd be trying to move Josh Jacobs for James Cook. You might have to add a 3rd-round pick or something onto it, but I think you can get that done.
The Jerome Ford one for me, I like that move a lot. I know a lot of people are high on Jerome Ford, and he finished the season really well, but until we see it be Jerome Ford's backfield, in my opinion, it's Nick Chubb's backfield, or it could be a 50-50 split, in which case you're not getting what you want out of Jerome Ford. Videos of him, Nick Chubb working out and all that stuff. I love these trades, to be honest with you. In one case, you're moving on from a guy who has some question marks about his future. And same thing with Josh Jacobs, too. Getting older has really just a lot of miles on him. I'm going to be targeting Houston Texans running back Joe Mixon. And Nate, I know you're not the biggest fan, but when you're just looking at his career overall, averaging 916 rush yards and 305.37 receiving yards per year, that's really good. I think he's going to be in a very good offense this year. He doesn't miss a lot of time either. He's been pretty solid throughout his career. He missed 2 games in 2022 with concussion. Prior to that, it was 2020, 10 games for a mid-foot sprain. We can almost just forgive anything that happened in the 2020 season. And this offense looks legit. I mean, you got CJ Stroud You got all these great receivers out there, and now they have an effective workhorse back. Joe Mixon has shown he can carry the load in an offense. 15.7 fantasy points per game in 2023, Nate. He had 53 evaded tackles and 8 breakaway runs. He doesn't look like the type of guy that would be that. He's a pretty big dude. He's 6'1". I thought he was smaller than that. He's a pretty big guy, so I wouldn't think he'd be doing that. And Nate, this one's for you. Career yak rec of 8.5. I know you love the yak rec.
We do.
So get this. He's player 107 on Keep Trade Cut, which was running back 20, but finished as running back 6 last year in a PPR format. So when we're talking about value discrepancies there, he's not being valued where he should be. Now, maybe people are getting skeptical of his age. He's getting in his upper 20s. Maybe people are skeptical of a new team. But I think this is kind of one of those deals where he's got some tread left on the tires. Boom. And I like where he's headed here. In Superflex, he's valued around players such as Zamir White, who we all like, but he hasn't done it yet. DeAndre Swift and Tajay Spears, surprisingly, when that's going to be an interesting backfield in Tennessee. These are trades that really happen. So I see your comments. Nobody would make those trades. Look, go on Fantasy Calc, look this stuff up. People made these trades. These are people you are in leagues with. In Superflex, we got Mixon for 225 seconds and Mixon for Terry McLaurin and a 24 seconds. Obviously, they didn't have their fantasy draft yet and rookie draft. And in one quarterback league, he's player 93. So moving up a little bit there. Valued around players such as Brock Purdy, David Montgomery, and again, Tajay Spears. Some more trades. Mixon in a 25 second for Cooper Kupp in a 25 first. It's an interesting one right there. And I saw another one, Mixon for Freiermuth in a second, which, hey, Pat Freiermuth, we think he's going to bounce back. We don't know what that offense is really going to look like. So if you have an abundance of tight ends or a guy maybe you believe in a little bit more, you want to move in a second to get a guy who's could be a running back 1 for you, I don't mind making that deal at all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cup one. I think, Cup and Mixon are probably pretty relatively fair value for just a swap. I don't think you need to move a first to get them and get a second back. But
yeah, I agree.
Depends on your negotiations, I guess.
That is very, very true. So, Nate, what do you have locked and loaded for us next?
All right, next I got now a Baltimore Raven, Derrick Henry. Everyone's scared of Derrick Henry because he's 30 years old now. He's had an 8-year career. He's on the Ravens now, and I know he's old. So Ravens running backs get injured. We've seen that. I've felt it over the last couple of years. It's been really tough.
Yeah, you really have.
But Derrick Henry, in his 8-year career, Mike, has only missed 11 games over the course of his career, and 9 of those came in 2021 with a foot fracture. So outside of that 1 year, in these 7 other years, he's only missed 2 games due to injury. This guy is not like any other running back that we have in the league. This guy is an old school running back who runs into his 30s. You go back to, the early 2000s and before, you had running backs play into the 30s. Derrick Henry is doing that, and he's going to do it well. And I think he's in a great spot right now where he's going to be able to maximize his production, not to carry as much of the load as he did with the Tennessee Titans, which should help him continue to be healthy and maybe even boost his efficiency, which, trust me, he doesn't honestly need too much help there because he's still been really good. The Ravens rushing attack, obviously we know over the past couple of years has been really good. Greg Roman left, though, so is it still really good? Yes. The Ravens actually led the entire NFL last year in rush yards per game. So just because Greg Roman left does not mean that the idea around that team has changed at all. They still love to run the ball, and Derrick Henry is going to be perfect for that. He has surpassed double-digit touchdowns every year since 2018. Also has surpassed 1,000 yards every single year except for his rookie year and in 2021 when he had that foot fracture. And also, going back to the efficiency thing, Derrick Henry was second last year in runs of 15 yards or more, only behind Christian McCaffrey. So I'm expecting really big things now that he is connected with Lamar Jackson. Man, you're going to see Derrick Henry on these option plays, going to have wide open lanes in the middle of the offensive line, and I think we're going to see a lot of big plays out of him. Of course, the receiving is not likely to be there. That does limit his upside just a little bit. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to be the RB1 overall because he does have that pass catching limitation. But I do think that Derrick Henry should be an RB1 this year, top 12 guy. And with some touchdown luck, he could be up there close to the top 5. So I love Derrick Henry this year. I know a lot of people out on him because he is older, but I think the value is pretty good. All right, now you can get it for a second-round pick. That's great value for a running back that you can put into your lineup and build around for this year.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Watson, Jahmyr White, Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman, those guys I'd be more than willing to move for Derrick Henry if I'm a competitive team and need a running back to help me win my league.
And I think the key phrase there is competitive. If you're not competitive, you might want to hang on to Jahmyr White and see what you have. Christian Watson, we
Keon
have
Coleman, yeah.
question marks about. Ricky Pearsall, I mean, today Brandon Ayuk officially requested a trade, but then still Pearsall is the third best option.
Pearsall also got placed on the non-football injury list today.
Okay, so there you
But
go.
I don't know what that's about yet.
I don't know. I see a lot of people like asking me, they're like Xavier Legette or Ricky Pearsall. I'm like, it's Xavier Legette. I mean, we got to look, even if you like Pearsall's skill set better, we have to look at the opportunity here. I'm okay with that. And Keon Coleman, he could be very good in Buffalo, as you alluded to before. But again, we haven't seen it. All right, Nate, let's move back on. And let me tell you about my next guy. Everyone's like, oh, you should sell this guy. He was a 7th round draft pick, to which I say, nay. You should acquire. Look, hey, for every seller, there has to be a buyer, right? That's just how it works. This guy is solid and reliable. He gets the bulk of the carries in what is an explosive offense, and it is until it isn't. 15.3 fantasy points per game in 2023. Nate, would you like to have 15.3 fantasy points per game?
I sure would out of my running back position.
Yes, you would, especially because the running back position is quite fickle, as it turns out. He's an improving receiver as well. In 2022, he went from 13 and 130, 0 touchdowns, and last year, 44 receptions, 244 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the yardage wasn't really there, but 44 receptions, that's great. And only 1 drop on 63 targets. That's pretty good too. And it's good to be trusted by a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. And like I always say, I think the Chiefs like him more than we think the Chiefs like him. And that's really important because if the Chiefs like him, they're going to keep putting him out there. Do you know what kind of competition he has in Kansas City, Nate?
Not too much. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire did get re-signed. I did see that.
We got Deneric Prince there, who I liked a little bit out of Tulsa a couple years ago. Keontae Ingram still kicking around. Amani Bailey. And we got Carson Steele. And then we got Luis Reese-Zammit.
Yes, a rugby player from Wales.
So, Nate, Isiah Pacheco, in my opinion, is undervalued on Keep Trade Cut as well. He's player 68, running back 12. So right kind of at the bottom end of the running back 1 spectrum. He's found around players like Jackson Smith and Jigba, James Cook, talked about him earlier, and Ladd McConkey. I have a problem with the Ladd McConkey one. Hey, look, we all like Ladd McConkey. I do too. He's a rookie. He hasn't done anything yet. You could also get him right now for 25 first. And I want to hear your thoughts on this trade, Nate. Kyron Williams for Isiah Pacheco, Josh Palmer, a 25 third and a 25 fourth. D3 running backs getting swapped around here, and that's why I put this one on here. I wanted your opinion on this.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Though. Thanks for putting me in the spot. Honestly, I might lean Kyron Williams here.
Okay.
I feel like I'm kind of getting Pacheco and a bunch of I like Josh Palmer though. To be fair, I do like Josh Palmer.
Too. I'd rather take Josh Palmer out and get better picks if that's the case.
Yeah, give me like Pacheco and a second and a third or something.
Yeah, I'd be a little happier with that. But I just wanted to throw that one on there. Nate, let's move on. This guy was the talk of the town a few years ago. Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. We all know he's good. We all know that he can win your league.
Oh, yeah.
But just how good is he going to be? I know he's being drafted as a top 5 guy in redraft, of course, top 5 still in Dynasty. Jonathan Taylor, 25 years old. What about the Indianapolis Colts going forward? Shane Steichen is their head coach. We know that. And last year, a little bit of a different team because Anthony Richardson was injured and not playing for most of the season. So Gardner Minshew was the quarterback. So a little bit of a different offense they had there. But when playing at home, the Colts were the 4th most run-heavy team in the NFL. And that just goes to show that is their game plan. This is a run-first team in Indianapolis. And that kind of fits with Anthony Richardson's skill set. They can run first, play some play action, let him throw the ball downfield. And then going back to the Eagles with Shane Steichen, when he was the offensive coordinator there, the last 2 years that he was there, the Eagles were top 5 in rush attempts, rush yardage, and rush touchdowns. Now, some of that might have to do with the tush push and the invention of that in the last year of his career there. But
brotherly shove in this part of the country.
Brotherly shove. But it shows that Shane Steichen is a run-first coach, or a run-heavy coach at least. That's going to continue this year. It doesn't matter if Anthony Richardson's there or not. In fact, I think Anthony Richardson there kind of chooses to be even more run-heavy as you let him develop. So Jonathan Taylor is probably going to lead a lot of this offense as Anthony Richardson continues to develop. And Jonathan Taylor, just 2 years removed from being the overall RB1 in points per game in 2021 with 22 points per game and 20 total touchdowns. He was the RB12 last year in points per game. He did miss some time, I think like 5 or 6 games last year. And
7.
Anthony, 7. Thank you.
Torn thumb ligament and ankle pain / discomfort.
It was 2 different things.
It
So
was.
Anthony Richardson may steal some touchdowns and some rushing yardage this year from Jonathan Taylor, but with the threat that he has on the ground, I think that'll also help keep Jonathan Taylor healthy and also keep him more efficient, kind of like how I talked about Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson. You know, these option running quarterbacks, they're able to help the running back just not to take so much wear and tear, be a bit more efficient, as they usually have one less defender to have to worry about because that defender's keeping an eye on the quarterback. Jonathan Taylor, only 25 years old. I know he's getting old for a running back, but he's still signed through the 2026 season. So he's on there for 3 more years, including this season. They do have a potential out after the 2025 season. Either way, you got 2 or 3 years, and that's really all I'm looking for with a running back, especially a top guy like this. I don't think he's going to be falling off anytime soon. This guy's been productive anytime he's been on the field. Cost, DeAndre Swift in a first. What do you think about that, Mike? To upgrade your running back?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I like DeAndre Swift, and I think Chicago is going to be a good spot for him. But I think right now I'm more confident in Indianapolis's offense than I am in Chicago's offense, and that's just until I see it.
Yeah. Also, you got a rookie quarterback. There's going to be some growing pains there in Chicago. And then, Mike, straight up swap across the position. Jonathan Taylor, you could move Drake London or Chris Olave. If you really need that running back to, help you win your league, you got some wide receiver depth. It's going to cost you. You might be able to get something back on top because these guys are young wide receivers. You might be able to get a second or some kind of a pick on top, a throw-in player. But it is going to cost you to go get a stud running back like Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and I hate to move on from what could be stalwart wide receivers, but if you want to upgrade at one position, you're going to have to weaken yourself at another sometimes. Hopefully you drafted well at the wide receiver room. So love where your minds are at. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor feels like he's been around forever. Only 25, like Nate said. All right, let's talk about Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, a lot of times when people think about competing, they always go older. You don't have to do that. I like to target younger veterans, and he doesn't really exactly fall into a younger veteran status yet. But go get some Jahmyr Gibbs, and maybe you missed out on him. Nate, you know what I like about Jahmyr Gibbs?
What do you like?
Extremely efficient on limited touches while he's sharing the backfield with a guy who was very good last year too in David Montgomery. So he had 182 carries for 945 yards and 10 touchdowns. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry and 52 receptions, 316 yards and 1 touchdown, 6.1 yards per reception. So get this, he averaged 3.12 yards after contact. He had 568 total yards after contact. And he averaged having 7.1 defenders in the box. So he's averaging this against a stacked box. That's 10th in the NFL. 15 breakaway runs, 3rd in the NFL. And that's a breakaway run percentage of 8.2, which was 2nd in the NFL, Nate. He had 56 evaded tackles. Extremely efficient when he gets the ball in his hands as a receiver too. So his average depth of target was 0. And his yards per route run was 0.97. He still had a yak rack of 6.3 yards. It's just insane. He averaged 16.1 fantasy points per game. He finishes running back 10. Hey, look, he's an expensive acquisition, but he's only going to a second season. You're going to have him for a while. He's going to be there longer than David Montgomery. And the fact is, yeah, he's only 5'9", 200 pounds, whatever. Guys like this have carried the load in the NFL before. He's going to put on muscle mass as he matures in the NFL. He's in an NFL weight room. No concern at all. He's player 17, which is running back 3 on Keep Trade Cut. He's valued around players as Jordan Love, Puka Nacua, and Garrett Wilson. So like I said, he's expensive. Here's a trade I saw. Travis Etienne or Trevor. I get the ETNs all confused now. And Hollywood Brown at 25 4th for Jahmyr Gibbs. Would you do that trade?
Yeah, I'd make that move for Gibbs.
Yeah, so would I. And as much as I hate to give, I saw the straight up trade Devonta Smith for Gibbs.
Oh, you got to add someone to Devonta, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this was a real trade. What would you add to it? Think a second would get it done?
I think that definitely gets the conversation started. I wouldn't really want to add a first, so I think a second is probably a good spot.
I'd hate to add a first as well. And in one quarterback, I forgot to write down what his positional ranking was, but here's one I saw too: JSN and Kenneth Walker III for Jahmyr Gibbs. That must have been Noah making that trade because he's a Seahawks fan. And this is an interesting one too: Christian McCaffrey for Gibbs and a 25 first.
Okay, I don't really know how you get that done, to be quite honest. I think Gibbs and CMC are probably pretty valued around the same. Obviously Gibbs a little bit younger, but CMC's production's been insane. Don't know how you get the first on top, but if you can make it happen.
Hey,
Great work.
That's going to wrap it up for us. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Again, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. And look, fantasy drafts, they're coming up. It could be redraft. It doesn't matter. Link is down below. So until next time, for Nate, I'm Mike. Thank you for listening.